Well, hello there. This is Virtual's a Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. Recently, we had a game of the 4 Knights Scotch. Today, it's the 4 Knights Italian. And I'm going to show you how to respond in the opening with black that will often win you a really, really good winning advantage. Well, let's go take a look. So white, of course, begins with the 4 knights. E4, E5, knight 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 knights. And now the 4 knights Italian, a bishop to C4, and it's the Italian game with the knights all out. The thing now to know for black is this next move. When you look at the Lichess community database, the single most common move for black is the symmetrical bishop to C5. Now that's perfectly fine, but when you play symmetrical moves with black against white, white always has a slight advantage because they got to move first. So in this position, it's actually not the most accurate move. The most accurate move here occurs only 1 in 10 times, which is really interesting. And because it only occurs 1 in 10 times, it means at the beginner intermediate level, white will probably not really know how to respond to it, and they will likely make a mistake. This is also the most accurate move. As I said, it's not a mistake, even though it looks very aggressive. It's knight captures the pawn on E4. That's the best move in this position. And here it's basically equal. And it's basically, even though it's basically equal, white is often now on the defensive. So knight now captures knight, and we now have D5, taking full center, fork of the knight and bishop. In this position, it's really interesting. When you look at the Lichess community database, the win ratio of black compared to white, I think black wins 59% of the time, white wins 37% of the time. It's completely asymmetric. Black, in practice, is completely winning, particularly at the beginning intermediate level, even though it's basically 0-0-0. White here has only one correct move, which is bishop back to D3. So after captures, they capture back with the bishop. Most commonly, white will not play this position accurately. The most common move is actually bishop captures the pawn, and then we win back with the queen. Queen is now developed with a chain attack on the knight. In this game, white decides to play bishop to B5. It's a blunder, but it's not exactly obvious why. This move looks like it makes sense, right? Because there's a pin of my knight against the king. So after I take, white now captures, and they're placing pressure on the pinned piece. It looks like it makes sense. However, black now has a completely gangster move, which is queen to G5. Now, I didn't actually see this in the game, but what it does is it's a fork of the G2 pawn and an attack on the knight on E5, which is a skewer against the bishop on B5. Really powerful. Basically, the queen is almost definitely winning either one of these pieces or taking the G2 pawn. And if queen takes the G2 pawn, chain attack on the rook, and here we almost have Blackburn Shilling Gambit type vibes. It's a really, really winning position. Now here, I didn't actually see that move as I said in the game, but I did see queen to the center of the board, queen to D5, which is a fork of the knight and bishop. Stockfish calls this a mistake because just how powerful queen G5 is, but here black is still comfortably ahead. It's about minus 1.2, I think. Yes, minus 1.2. So black is doing really well. Attack on the knight and the bishop. Now, logically, knight captures, or bishop's actually better. Unfortunately, here I actually misplay it. I flubbed the exchange. The logical thing, of course, is queen captures the bishop with a chain attack on the knight. However, without thinking too hard, not appreciating the subtlety there, I decided to take with the pawn first, and it's a mistake because well, firstly, white can just retreat the bishop. In this case, they decide to jam their c pawn forward, which is actually an inaccuracy. It's an accuracy, it's a mistake because this bishop now ends up kind of trapped on the wrong side of the board. I now move my queen back to d6, defending that square, because obviously I don't want to face that fork. They now bring the bishop back. I bring my bishop out, develop, castles. We enter the middle game. Stockfish says black is only very slightly ahead here. However, let's take stock of the position. Black has the bishop pair both ready to attack facing the king side. Also, the queen is ready to attack as well. So really, really raring to go in the middle game for a kingside attack. Comparatively, white doesn't have that opportunity. This bishop has yet to develop, stuck behind those pawns. This bishop is, again, not quite in the right place. Everywhere it's a bit stuck. I would say that it's actually much easier to play for black. Now, they play b3, probably thinking about that fianchetto. Yeah, kind of makes a bit of sense. However, that's a mistake because this bishop doesn't go back into the game. It's basically trapped in the wrong place. Here, from this point, I actually completely have the initiative in the middle game. And what I'm aiming to do is to make an attack, strong attack on white's king side, and in doing so, forcing white to scramble, making moves to defend their pieces, basically on the defensive, and effectively I win relatively easily. Let's see what that looks like. Firstly, queen to e5. Now, again, Stockfish calls that a mistake, almost equal. You know, this is why you have to look at Stockfish's evaluations with a grain of salt. Yes, queen to g6 makes sense because there's an immediate attack here, but I thought that looked pretty obvious. Here, we've got the queen attacking the rook, so rook is forced to move, but the logic here is that I want to form this very powerful battery. So rook moves, achieves nothing, the queen has moved to a better square, bishop now to d6, and now along that dark square diagonal, immediate mate threat forces white to have to play g3, and this basically wins a concession because look at these very, very weak light squares around the king. This bishop dances immediately to h3 with an attack, also controlling this diagonal, and potentially this queen, it's a mating attack. They decide to counterattack the queen. That's fine. Queen slides forward. That's the attack I was just talking about. Now, forced to move the rook. You can see that's a blunder. It's so hard to see. Apparently, bishop captures the c6 pawn in this position is the correct move. You can barely, understand it, but it just wins white enough time to prevent that mate. Really hard to see. That makes a lot of sense. It's a blunder. It doesn't work. And effectively, black now has a winning attack. Now, the idea is to rotate that bishop across because, the f3 square is defended by the queen. Here, bishop down that light square diagonal. Again, attack on one of white's high-value pieces, forces the queen out of the way. And now, that bishop has rotated across, and the idea is now to bring the queen to h3 to deliver mate. White now brings their rook forward with an attack, but that's a mistake. What they had to do was to bring their queen along that dark square diagonal to threaten mate, and this now potentially forces a trade away of pieces to trade away the attack. Very hard to see. The next best move for white is they actually had to trade their queen away from my pawn. Absolutely, it's a sort of move that is just impossible to contemplate. But unfortunately, it is now mate in 4 because queen to h3. That is mate. Very, very difficult, basically it's impossible to play against. They take, it seems to make sense, but after that exchange, pawn captures, mate is unavoidable. They can give a spite check, but here my opponent with white pieces opted to resign. Good game, and GG. The big takeaway from this game is to learn how to play the 4 knights Italian with the black pieces. The critical move is on move 4. knight captures a pawn on e4, and often you'll be having a very winning game. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.